Well, hello, Bronchi Tech here. We're going to talk about getting through college while working full time. So I had the luxury of working not only one, but two full time jobs when I was going to school, going to college. And so I had to manage my time accordingly in order to graduate. Now, granted, I didn't always have two full time jobs, and I've always at least had one when I was going to college, but it's something that you got to manage, or you go to school and you have a bunch of debt. So it depends on your situation. Like my whole situation, I was married and had people to take care of. So obviously I needed to still work, regardless if I was going to school or not. And so that's one tip that I have. You're going to college, you're going to get a degree and have a goal for your degree on what you want to do with that. You got to look at your life situation and compare where you will be after your degree in comparison to, where you're at now. And so having that realization that the path to get a degree is actually going to worth it is going to help you get through and stay motivated. So I was working from food and I transitioned all the way to engineering. And if you take a look and what's that pay difference? It's a lot. And so you got to put yourself in a corner where like, I've got to make this work. And you have that mental image is like, I got to make it work in order to get through. And so motivation, that's how you keep your motivation. And so another thing that I see, I was talking with my nephew the other day and he was setting up his coursework. And so I was like, hey, what courses are you taking this semester? And he's like, I don't know. My advisor hasn't got back to me. So if you're working full time, you're going to want to take charge of your schedule and not rely on your advisor to schedule everything. So there's some caveats you got to come with this. You got to know what your coursework is required to get your degree. And so I knew exactly what I needed to have. I had all the coursework, I knew all the schedule for the entire course throughout the whole entire year. And so I planned accordingly. So I'd sit down at the beginning of the semester or before, during summertime, and I'd schedule out my whole entire year because I knew I had to take certain things at certain times in order to graduate. So you want to be active within that, so your coursework, because you need to know when you graduate. It helps you balance your workload. So not all credits are created equal. You're going to have your elective classes, which are typically easier than your standard coursework, and scheduling those will allow you to balance your workload, so that way you don't have 5 or 4 courses that are stacked up on top of each other that are pain in the butt. So manage your workload, and scheduling your own coursework will help you manage that workload. And so the second thing is, one thing I don't remember much going through college is having to be on this thing that much. You're busy. You're busy the whole entire time, the whole entire day, and you don't get much time on the cell phone. I know a lot of people are starting to get addicted to these things. Actually, a lot of people are addicted to these things, and you got to put those down and have real expectations that you don't actually have time to sit there and watch TikTok all day. Otherwise, you'll start doom scrolling, and 3 hours later, you wasted those hours. You don't have that affordability. Same thing with computer use. If you're on your computer, you're going to be doing coursework and cut your games. That you got to maintain your focus. But you got to realize, with your goals, where you're going to be after college in comparison to where you're at now or before you went to college. So it's keeping that motivation, because long term you're going to be in a better spot once you get out, if you do everything right. You can even get a flip phone. Throw out the smartphone and get the flip phone. They still sell them. All right. So You do all your homework. Obviously, practice is the mother of skill. So if you continue to do your homework every day, it's going to help you pass those classes. Now, some courseworks and classes, you're going to be more heavy weighted on getting your homework done than tests, and then other ones are going to be nothing but rated during your test. So I look at every single homework as an opportunity to boost your grade, and because the homework will probably be easier to get a better grade than tests. At least that's my experience. And so it's just getting that repetition is key. You keep doing those practice problems, all the homework that's assigned to you, and it makes everything else easy. If you don't do that, you don't retain that information. So second thing on homework is you want to break it out throughout the whole entire week. So if you have a math class, they have 30 questions and you have a week to do it until your next math class. Break out those homework assignments across the entire week. Don't do all of them at once. Instead, break them out little by little. It'll help you retain because you're exercising that skill every single day, and it helps you actually learn better. So, like when I was working, I had 2 full-time jobs. I'd go to school in the morning, go to one job, and then I'd have an hour break between the second job, and I'd sit there and bust out a few math problems before I go to the other one. Why? Because I didn't have time not to do it, but it actually helped me retain the information better because I was refreshing myself every single day. There's a lot of apps and there's a lot of AI. You got Chegg. All of these things you have at your disposal in order to help you do your homework. Now, I wouldn't recommend using those, as if you're constantly using those, you're going to be slowly relying on those technologies in order to understand the material. I'll give you a good example. We used to not actually have Google Maps, and we got driving around everywhere without that, and so you had to memorize everywhere you had to go. So when I was 14, I was working with a guy that we mow lawns every day, and then he had to go get surgery, and he was out for a couple months. So he had a backup guy that drove around to all the properties. Well, I had to remember where all those are. We didn't have Google Maps, so we had to drive around. So I knew the whole town pretty dang well. But then I moved to other towns and I used Google Maps to get everywhere. It's like, oh, well, I don't know how to get around without Google Maps anymore. And so, when you're practicing these exercises, make sure you understand and don't use these resources in order to get it done. If you do, you probably should do an extra exercise just so that way you can ingrain that material in your head. Do 2 or 3 extra more. So I stay away from it, but I understand. Well, another thing is, when we talk about our coursework, utilize your summer courses for extra credits. So I did 5 years in college. So I was always full time, but the engineering degree, they ask you for so much. I don't know why. They don't want planes falling out of the sky. And so I utilized my summer coursework, and I got credits while I was at summer. I mean, I do a full time for what was considered summer, but also what I realized was it seemed like those courseworks were a little bit more relaxed than just normal college during the fall, spring, and winter seasons. So another one that I'd like to do when I was there, I'd keep some of my coursework online, and I keep some coursework that was in class. Now, how did I determine which one that I wanted to do? It was mainly schedule, and the other big factor was how difficult was the coursework. So if it was more difficult, I do it in person. If it was one of the easier ones, I do it online. Why did I do this? Because you have a narrow gap when you go into actually school that you can actually get help from other people and your professor, where you're actually there in class and you can have their actual attention. Instead, online, you go back and forth emails. So I kept all the harder coursework in class. So this helped me retain information. And last but not least, I'd get a study buddy. So I had difficulty my first engineering term. So that would be my third year in college. And so I moved from one town to another and I started a new job. I did factory work on graveyard. And then I slowly moved into an internship that I got with the Army Corps. So that was a hard time, but at the same time, it kind of was the start of my whole breaking up from my marriage. So that whole time kind of really sucked. And so, going through it, it was really hard just getting through coursework and everything with everything else that was going on. So I got a study buddy. And every day or every weekend, our weekends were pretty much like this. I'd go over there to his house in the morning time. We do a little bit of studying, and then we go out there and play pool, do a little bit of studying. Then we go and grill some steaks in the afternoon near dinner time, and then just finish up the studying there. And so we just broke it out with that. And going through there, it actually helped me out get a lot of things done. So, I have a good study buddy and a good routine, like I did on the weekends where we met every weekend and we got everything done. It helped get through the more challenging coursework when you work with somebody else alongside of it as well. So utilize your study buddies, use them, they'll help you out, get through. You actually, if I believe right, somebody's going to quote me if I'm wrong in the comments, but you actually learn quicker when you're working with somebody else, believe it or not, because you have part of the knowledge, they have part of the knowledge, and combine you can make up, and then you guys talk with each other, and you fill in each other's knowledge gaps, and it actually helps each other out. So if you like this video, hit the like button, subscribe, follow me on Twitter. I got a Brunky Tech. I need to upload more often, and I hope you have a wonderful day.